may have noticed over the years that every once in a while a gospel lesson pops up that does not easily lend itself to comfortable preaching. I suppose we don't need to worry too much about that. Jesus did not come to make us comfortable, after all. He came to bring us peace and reconciliation with God and with one another. But if that's the case, that Jesus came to bring peace and reconciliation, and we know that it is, then passages like today's gospel reading just become harder to understand and to put in perspective. Sometimes we wish Jesus hadn't said some of the things that he said. I'm sure the disciples felt that way quite often. Jesus, did you have to say that? I once heard a preacher say from the pulpit, what Jesus meant to say here was, that takes guts. Or perhaps a misguided kind of confidence to put words in Jesus' mouth. But we all wish we could do it from time to time. Jesus said, don't go to Florida this weekend. Or Jesus said, French fries are not good for you. Or, I won't get on that plane because Jesus said, lo, I will be with you. Sorry about that. It would be nice to have a Jesus puppet sometimes, wouldn't it? And fill the space between the quotation marks with the words we wish Jesus had said. But we don't get to do that, not even when we're ordained. So what does Jesus mean without changing what he said? How do we understand what Jesus means when he say that he did not come to bring peace? Especially when in another context he says to his disciples very directly, peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. Not as the world gives do I give you peace. Well, right there I think we have answered our question. When I was in grade school, we used to play kickball at recess. Now I'm sure you have all played kickball. It's like baseball, only you kick a big reddish-brown rubber ball instead of hitting a small white one with a bat. But you run bases and you pitch and you field the ball in much the same way. Now, kids develop at different rates, and they grow at different rates. So levels of skill and coordination vary greatly from child to child, even though everybody playing together might be close to the same age and in the same grade. And the children themselves learn very quickly who is the fastest, and who is the most accurate, and who is the most coordinated. This knowledge has an effect on the choosing of teams. Recess begins. If the teacher has not been involved in choosing the team captains, there usually emerges one captain who is a budding young star athlete, and one captain who is a rather inept bookworm. Left to their own devices, children from any given classroom will inevitably divide themselves along lines of friendship, and often because friends play together, also along lines of kickball playing prowess. This means that at the end of 15 minutes of play, one supercharged team has thoroughly trounced and embarrassed the other team, which may not have even had a full minute to demonstrate their potential. What could change this scenario? A wise teacher. A wise teacher knows the children in his or her classroom and chooses two team captains who are either equally superior or equally inept. Two captains that would normally prefer to be on the same team together. This assures that there will be some fair amount of competition involved in the recruiting of players from the equally talented group of people as the children are picked person by person. If you are like me, you have played kickball in both kinds of scenarios. You've been on a consistently triumphant team, feeling great about yourself and your teammates. You've been on a pathetic losing team, feeling like dirt, looking for someone besides yourself to blame for your losses. But you've also experienced how exciting and encouraging it can be to play when two teams are well matched, nearly equal in talent and skill. Scores are closer, cheering is more intense, and there's a greater satisfaction and level of enjoyment all around. Well, kickball is not real life, but it is one small kind of preparation for real life. So what does this have to do with our confusion about Jesus' sayings today and whether he came to bring peace or not? I would say the key lies in the phrase, not as the world gives. You see, we are talking about two different kinds of peace here. First, there is the peace that the world gives. This basically amounts to accepting things the way they are, not rocking the boat. When the world experiences conflict, peace can be achieved in different ways, but usually it's a result either of complete domination by one of the combatants, or by a mutual agreement by both to stop shooting. Peace is the absence of conflict. We see this kind of peace in families, in friendships, among co-workers, and between nations. It is not true peace. It is merely a truce that allows life to go on amicably. This inadequate kind of peace is everywhere we look. It is a tacit agreement to live with the status quo. It amounts to complacency. We know that things are screwed up, but there is some kind of an uneasy equilibrium in place that seems to keep people from being at odds with each other, so we are just happy to leave well enough alone, to let sleeping dogs lie, to just walk away. This is not the kind of peace that God is satisfied with. And it's precisely the kind of peace that Jesus today says he comes to destroy. Jesus is not satisfied with truces. He's not satisfied with quiet understanding, with pain left unspoken so that things don't get out of hand. Jesus did not come to affirm the status quo. He did not come to leave things alone. We like to talk about how Jesus accepts everybody the way they are, and that's true. But he did not come to leave us the way we are. He came to mix it up, to throw the world's brand of peace up in the air like so much confetti, so that everything could float back to earth and be reorganized, recapitulated, remade, so that a new kingdom, a new order, a new kind of peace could settle into place in the created order. An order which is now recreated. Peace, the way we usually make it amongst ourselves, is only a cheap counterfeit of real peace. Jesus comes not to affirm the shallow kind of peace that we think we have, but to usher in God's kingdom, God's order, God's peace. Jesus accepts us, true enough, but then he starts messing with us because we have to be remade. Jesus swaps our inadequate peace for his own good peace. And when Jesus starts mixing things up, priorities are realigned, relationships are often readjusted. New team captains are chosen by the teacher to level the playing field. Jesus does not just come and validate things the way they are. Our institutions, our values, our choices, our habits, and then say, okay, you're good to go now. You and God are cool. Go on your way, go in peace. No, he doesn't do that. He stops the game. He questions the rules. He asks things like, woman, where are your accusers? And then he says, go and sin no more. Not just go. The saints and martyrs mentioned in our reading from the letter to the Hebrews today know all about this kind of shake-up. They did not get to enjoy peace as the world gives, but they did come to know the peace of God which passes all understanding. And now they surround us. They are the great cloud of witnesses that cheer us on as we run the race that is set before us. It's not easy to be in this race. Though my knees will not allow it any longer, I used to do a lot of running when I was younger. We began training for track season in my high school in midwinter by running through the school building, up and down long staircases, doing calisthenics in the gym, running stadiums in the gym bleachers, and then running 5 miles in the snow outside, 2.5 miles down the boulevard beside the river, and 2.5 miles back. When you got back to school at the end of practice, sometimes you could not feel your legs, but you knew that you had done something. Day after day, we went through this routine. Little by little, our bodies reshaped themselves, and we got stronger and faster, and the breathing came easier. Before we signed up for track, before training began, we were in one kind of a race. It was an academic race, and we were at peace with one kind of peace. But then the rules changed, and we had to train our bodies to run a different kind of race, so that we were able to know a new kind of peace in a new circumstance. That's what has happened to all of us if we look at the big picture. Jesus is our coach. He is the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. He picks us up out of the race that we think we are in, and he places us in the race that he wants us to run. He changes the rules. He says, what you used to call peace is no longer peace. This is what peace means now. He has run the race himself before we were ever placed in the starting blocks. And he stands at the finish line, yelling encouragement. See, it can be done, he says. Here I am, living proof. Just fix your eyes on me. Just run toward me. And the great cloud of witnesses cheers us on. It would be easy for us to skip over today's readings because we don't want to hear that Jesus came to bring fire to the earth. It sounds too much like the condemning fire of judgment that we always picture when we read Dante's Inferno or as we peruse medieval works of art. But we forget, the fire is not meant to punish. It's meant to erase all the things that are wrong, to redraw the lines in new places, to change the rules of engagement, to make peace mean something new. It purifies all things. It is a sweet fire that consumes only that which needs to be consumed to make way for a new kingdom. I think the division that Jesus brings is really just a redivision of things, a drawing of the lines in new places,